Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Welcome to the show. We're delighted to be sharing this new year with you, entering into 2012, and thank you for honoring us with your presence. Dr. Tim, are you with us this morning? Okay, well, we're going through some technical gyrations, and I assume Dr. Tim will be with us any moment. And as we wait for him to tap in, we'll put out the invitation, as we do with every show, to become a person who is willing to assist in putting an end to war on planet Earth. How do we do that? Our invitation to you is that you go to our website, whyagain.com, and on the right-hand side there's a link that says Download Worksheets. Go in, and the first 4 links under that section will give you the whole story of forgiveness. The actual process of forgiveness has nothing to do with letting somebody else off the hook for what's going on inside of us. The actual cause of war has nothing to do with they did something terrible, so we're going to go make war on them. The actual cause of war is if there's hostility and fear in us that we deny and don't want to be responsible for, then we want to blame everybody else for it. And sooner or later that leads to, well, I'll just take my vengeance here by killing. We have a plan to put an end to that. And here's what we're going to invite you to do. Today and every day for the rest of your eternal life, we're going to invite you to look at something in your world that you have some form of hostility or fear about and be willing to forgive. That is, not let somebody else off the hook because that's what's inside of you, but rather to go inside yourself, find the part of you that holds any form of hostility or fear, and literally rid yourself of the capacity to live out of or experience any form of hostility or fear. So that's our vote for you. That's our wish for you. That's what we hold the space for. And the whole story of how to do the forgiveness process, how to go inside yourself and change those internal dynamics is free on our website. The book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, is free. I'll actually be getting ready to fly out of St. Louis in a few days to Fort Lauderdale. We'll be doing next Saturday evening, we'll be at a place called the Heart Painter Studio in Boca Raton, Florida, doing our main workshop, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, where we'll teach the forgiveness process, reality management. Pardon me, actually that evening is communication. Did you hear what I think I said? It'll be a free open workshop in Boca Raton next Saturday night. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all day Saturday, we'll be at a place called CSL in Fort Lauderdale. Free series of workshops. There's actually a fee for the Saturday workshop, but the rest of the week is all free. We would be delighted if you'd come and join us, and let's check and see if Dr. Tim has gotten us on the chat room yet and is on the line. Are you with us, Tim? I know he was having some difficulties the other day, and I hope that we're resolving those difficulties. And I'm holding the space that I'm actually on the call, that the problem isn't on my end. But it's kind of hard to tell when we're on the road. It sometimes gets a little funky. Jeannie is still in Bristol, Tennessee, and she's taking care of some family things with her former husband passing away last Wednesday. And so she's been with her son and her 2 stepsons there, and just handling all the dynamics holding the space for family healing around someone passing. So we invite you to hold the space for her to support us in empowering her in the process of being able to do that. I know that this morning she's getting ready to breathe, or this afternoon, pardon me, she's getting ready to breathe, to do some still point breathing with her son and her daughter-in-law. So just to process some of the things that have been going on in the last few weeks. It's been a difficult time for her family there. So we're delighted that you're with us. And Dr. Tim, I haven't heard any clicks or noises from you yet, but are you with us? I hold that we are on the air and moving forward. In any event, with New Year's being the event that's starting to impact our culture, I had a little piece that I thought I would share with you on 1955. And I'm going to hold for just a second. My other phone is ringing, and I'm going to presume we've got a problem. Just give me a second here. I'll be right back. Well, not quite sure what's happening. Dr. Tim, are you with us yet? Have we got the chat room up and operating? It's hard for me to tell on this end just what's happening. And I'll move forward and continue to share the comments made in the year 1955. I thought this was kind of interesting. That gives us a perspective on where our world has gone in the last 60 or so years. And it comes from an email that someone sent to me. Comments made in 1955. I'll tell you one thing. If things keep going the way they are, it's going to be impossible to buy a week's groceries for $10. The accompanying picture has a family coming out of the grocery store with 4 large bags of groceries. And then a nice new 54 or 55 Chevy in the picture. Have you seen the new cars coming out next year? It won't be long before the only thing $2,000 will do is buy a used one. And then we've got an interesting picture of Joan Crawford as she delivers cigarettes to some friends. And if cigarettes keep going up in price, I'm going to quit. 20 cents a pack is ridiculous. That's 1955. Did you hear the post office is thinking about charging 7 cents to mail a letter? If they raise the minimum wage to $1, nobody will be able to hire outside help at the store. When I first started driving, who would have thought gas would someday cost 25 cents a gallon? We'd be better off leaving the car in the garage. And I assume. Okay. So, Dr. Tim, are you with us yet? I just got a text from Tim saying that the site won't let him log in. I don't know. Tim, if you can hear me, maybe a quick call to Jeannie and see if she has any ideas. I don't know. There shouldn't be anyone else logged in, and I don't have anybody on this end. So if you can hear me, Tim, maybe you could just give Jeannie a call and see if she can help. See what's going on. Well, anyway, I'm going to presume that the show is moving forward. So, life on the road. What can I say, folks? We're doing our best here. So the last comment from 1955 was how the price of the gas is going to go up to 25 cents a gallon. And then a parent saying to a friend, "I'm afraid to send my kids to the movies anymore. Ever since they let Clark Gable get by with saying damn and Gone with the Wind, every new movie seems to have either hell or damn in it." Isn't that an interesting commentary from 1955? I read the other day where some scientist thinks it's possible to put a man on the moon by the end of the century. They even have some fellows they call astronauts preparing for it down in Texas. Isn't that interesting? And did you see where some baseball player just signed a contract for $50,000 a year to play ball? It wouldn't surprise me if someday they'll be making more than the president. These are all comments made in 1955. I never thought I'd see the day when all our kitchen appliances would be electric. They're even making electric typewriters now. Oh, my goodness. Has the world changed or what? And then showing a picture of a couple of women. It's too bad things are so tough nowadays. I see where a few married women are having to work to make ends meet. Of course, that's been the objective of the king for a long time, is get women out of the house and turn them over where they belong to the state. And then the next comment, it won't be long before young couples are going to have to hire someone to watch their kids so they can both work. And then they've got a picture of a new Volkswagen Bug. I'm afraid the Volkswagen car is going to open the door for a whole lot of foreign business. Thank goodness I won't live to see the day when the government takes half our income in taxes. Sometimes I wonder if we're electing the best people to government. And then there's a picture of a certain place that serves dead cows on buns with 15 cents as their price, and the comment is, the fast food restaurant is convenient for a quick meal, but I seriously doubt they'll ever catch on. And then there's no sense going on a short trip anymore for a weekend. It costs nearly $2 to stay in a hotel. And the final one, which I think is kind of interesting, is no one can afford to be sick anymore. At $15 a day in the hospital, that's too rich for my blood. So things have certainly changed since 1955, and who knows what this century is going to bring. We're well into it, and certainly we're seeing some amazing changes take place. And so let's see if we've been successful. Dr. Tim, have you been able to get on the site yet? Well, it looks like no. So I'm not sure what's happening. If you can hear me, Tim, maybe Jeannie can straighten it out. I don't know.
Michael, are you there?
Yeah, hey, I hear your sweet voice.
Okay, so you keep talking, we can hear you, and we'll try and straighten out the switchboard.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Awesome.
David is also on.
Okay, welcome to the show. David, can you talk to us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, David. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing cool. Nice to. I was hearing your voice, so you have been on the air. It's just that no one else has been able to communicate with you on that. So it's good that it's rolled.
Good. I wasn't sure if I was sitting on just talking to myself on a blank phone. So anyway, I'm glad to hear that it's coming through.
Well, I text you. I don't know if you were able to get it or not. I text you to answer your responses if you weren't listening, or if you're on the air. So we'll maybe we can work out all the details of this for the future and make sure that everything is. We have some safety links of communication there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm on a landline now, but unfortunately, my cell phone doesn't work where I am, so it's hard to communicate with my cell where I have to go for the landline. I'm kind of in the lower part of a house, and there's no cell signal here. So anyway, welcome to the show. We're glad you're here. We're glad to be in a new year, 2012. Some interesting dynamics going on according to the Mayan calendar and the Mayan folks. This is a time for a big shift in the energy of the planet, moving from control and power to integrity and ethics. So we certainly hold a space that we're moving into an ethical age and an ethical time. And we're delighted to have you on the show with us and willing to learn this thing called forgiveness. And if you'll be patient, Dr. Tim is working on the chat room. There are some technical difficulties, and so we'll see that those come into focus fairly quickly, and we get to move forward. Are you still with us, Tim? Can you hear me?
I'm here, Michael. Thanks, Jeannie, and good luck. All right, bye-bye.
So it looks like
we're here. Are you there?
I'm here, yes, sir.
Here. Okay, I finally got on. Currently,
Awesome.
we only have you and David and I with our hands up, and since the chat room only got launched a few minutes ago, nothing going on there.
Okay, cool. Well, I've got a topic I'd like to bring up, and we just hold the space that this opening of the new year allows us to tap into this new planetary energy that the Mayans predicted thousands of years ago would be coming into the planet at this particular time. And it's interesting. There's one video, I believe it was on the History Channel, about the Mayans and how this particular Mayan king took a group of people. This is historic fact. A group of people, treacherous journey across the oceans for the type of vehicles they had. And I forget exactly the distance involved, something like 1,000 miles to this particular remote island, and built a temple there, a Mayan temple, and it's like just this anomaly. But interestingly enough, and again, it's been a while since I've watched it, I don't remember the exact details, but they knew enough about the cosmology that this island where they built their temple is the only place in the Western Hemisphere where the particular alignment that's bringing this new energy in of planets is going to be visible from the west. There's if I remember correctly, it's an eclipse that's happening, and there's only one place in the Western Hemisphere where it's going to be visible, and that's where the Mayans built their temple, 1,000 miles or more from their homeland and from any other temples that are found that the Mayans built. So they certainly knew something about planetary energies that we haven't figured out yet. And so we hold the space that the new year brings everybody a new level of that integrity, of that awesome presence of love that each of us is. And our definition for what needs to be forgiven in this work is, if anything unlike love shows up, if anything unlike human life shows up, then it's something that needs to be forgiven, something that needs to be removed from us, not something we need to forgive somebody else for because that's happening in us. So there's the core of the forgiveness process. And I don't know if Terry happens to be with us. Is Terry Bowling with us? He'd be an 828 number, Tim. We had talked with Terry about maybe joining us for the show today, and I don't know. He's working, so I don't know whether he's able to.
I don't have an 828, but Nene is here and has her hand up.
Okay, cool. Well, Nene, what's on your mind today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you, too. May this be the best year yet of your eternal life.
Well, and it's my first year. A year ago I attended my first Why Again workshop.
Yes, today is the second. It is 1 year ago today.
Yes.
Have you made changes? Wow.
Yeah. Lovely, and it's been very powerful and very satisfied to feel myself connected in purpose and to feel this joy and happiness and be able to be in power, with my life, and to be able to be what I really want, To
function as a human being is pretty awesome, isn't it?
It is. And it was wonderful, those 40 days, the worksheets working together.
Yeah.
And today, I woke up, and this morning I do my spiritual work during the morning, and since I'm going to be seeing my daughter very soon, after 2.5 years, I did a worksheet about seeing her again, and another one on the legal part, that has been in the past. It was very heavy for me to resolve anything legally.
Right.
So I was doing that, and when I canceled my goal and invoked Ruch de Kusha, and I was doing that, and I started crying, and I had a vision and in the vision, I was dying in the arms of my beloved one, and he was a warrior. So my thought in that moment was that I died for a legal reason, for like defending a legal something. That's what I had in my thought for a moment, in my vision. I still have the vision. So as I say, I don't know whether it's true. Maybe it's the energy that shows like that. And I started shivering. And
perhaps it is a reflection of vision that comes from a reflection of the work that you're doing, where you are causing the old false self to die. And coming into your true expression, which is really the whole goal of this work. You know, if you go back 2,000 years ago, you hear Yeshua saying, in order for you to live, you've got to die, which of course makes no sense whatsoever from the traditional way that people look at the world. But once you recognize that what he was saying was that the false self, the self that we think we are, the self based in hostility or fear, has to be forgiven and therefore die. It dissolves before the true self, the being that we are. And of course, our definition of the true self is an easy definition to tap into. All you have to do is go back to the first time you held a newborn child, and you know exactly what human life is. So that may be a symbolic presentation from your mind of the Creator holding you in safety as the old self dissolves and disappears.
Yes.
Does that fit for you?
Yes, it had to be, and because, and you know, I still have that emotion, that energy vibrating inside of me when I did my work. It was like a couple of hours ago, and so I'm very happy, and I am more inspired to continue. And then I'm going to see Lucia, and I'm going to do the energetic work on her. And, you know, after that, I know for this year, with all my residency falls into place and everything, then I'm going to start spending more time in Venezuela and then start doing my tour with the teaching. So I hold that as one of my goals for this year.
Awesome. Well, we certainly hold the space for that, and the space for the next level of your work in 2012. It's just wonderful to have you on the team, and you are appreciated.
Thank you. Same.
All right. Okay. Blessings.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, the conversation I was talking about with Terry, I actually had with both Terry and David, and one of the worksheets I was doing as my final ones for 2011, I actually had a very interesting New Year's Eve. Actually, most of the day I spent just focusing on doing some writing and doing worksheets. So it was about the 11th worksheet that I'd done for the day that was around an issue of something that had happened at Heartland, where there was a young woman who had a severe problem with alcohol and had come to Heartland, given up alcohol, and she had to leave in order to handle some sort of an emergency situation, and ended up going back and drinking and almost getting herself murdered. She actually was raped and almost murdered because she went drinking, and then after doing the drinking, which she thought wasn't that big a deal, she could handle alcohol. She ended up in a crack neighborhood looking for crack cocaine, which had been a previous addiction for her. And so the worksheet that I did was around her returning to Heartland, and there were some people who were having a party, and we had asked that once the invitation had been put out to everybody that was Heartland to go to that party, that they refrain from serving alcohol. And they refused, and one of the other participants from Heartland came down and shared with me that they were giving this woman alcohol, literally putting her life at risk. So that was my worksheet, was working through some of my feelings about that. And what came up as a result of that was the enormous impact of alcohol on human life on the planet. And looking at, for a time period as a kid, fortunately my father got out of it, but for a time period as a kid, my father drank pretty heavily, and my grandparents were, alcohol was just a family motto. And I look back, and the amount and the impact of alcohol was just enormous. And so as I was doing this, I called David and Terry for support and invited them into the space of us being willing and able to look at just the horrendous impact. Someone that I spoke to had pointed out that in the last couple of days since doing that, the murders that happen in our country, that almost all of them involve alcohol. And you look at the abuse that's been done with people under the influence of alcohol, the child abuse, the spousal abuse, the parental abuse, the just huge impact. You look at war. I just happened to, the night before this worksheet came up to do, I happened to watch a video on YouTube of Ron Paul, who I believe is one of the few sane voices in Washington, someone who's held in his own hands 4,000 newborn babies, delivered 4,000 newborns, and you can't deliver and be in the presence of human life that much without being healed and transformed. And so this fellow Ron Paul, who's virtually cut out of all debates and conversation as a political candidate, although he's very close to the top in the polls, and has raised more money from the military than anybody. I mean, it's awesome when you look at what he's done, but they almost don't address him because he's addressing the insanity of the way our whole culture is set up from the financial point of view, et cetera, But this particular video that someone sent me a link to was where he was talking about the racist policies and how they impact minorities. And he spoke of how, because of the use of pot in the Hispanic world and the Hispanic community, that the illegalization and criminalization of pot had taken place, the cocaine and how that impacted minority communities. And then he made the comment that, however, these 535 legislatures who are probably going to go out and do their share of drinking after the legislative session would never touch alcohol. And you look at how many wars have been impacted by people who are drinking excessively and have their judgment impaired. It's just so enormous a challenge. So here's my invitation to everybody who's on the show, and I'd love to open the conversation in that direction. And it was my invitation personally to both Terry and David, whose family systems have been impacted by alcohol. They've shared with us on the show before. But that we create a vortex of energy, that we purposely, consciously heal those issues within ourselves and create a vortex of energy that literally removes, forgives all of the trauma that's carried in the genetics of each and every person on planet Earth over the issue of alcohol. That we purposely, consciously evaporate that energy, transmute and change that energy. And I'm sure that most everybody who's on the show could probably tell us some stories about how alcohol has impacted their family systems or their cultures, whether they be community cultures or racial cultures. Just, what kind of craziness has happened. And so I put the invitation out that perhaps over the ensuing weeks and months that we each do at least of our 5 worksheets a day, that we at least do one worksheet around this issue of alcohol in places where we see its impact in our communities. David, Tim, do you have any thoughts, or do we have any callers who want to say anything?
Well, no one has their hand up right now. The chat room is quiet. Of course, we did get a very late start. So let me check the hands up again. Nope. David, you're still on?
Michael, I am
Yes, sir.
still on. Yeah, my thought is that in one of your videos, and in several your workshops, but then you give the effects of what alcohol does on the brain, and give a real good explanation of why did people do certain behaviors when they are under the influence of alcohol, and how it does affect the brain. And so that's one thing I would like to hear you talk about.
Good idea.
And the other thing is that there's a statement that I heard several years ago that every time I drank, I didn't get in trouble, but every time I got in trouble, I was drinking.
Right.
And so with that type of information about of why that there's certain behaviors and the different things that go on with the effect of the brain might be helpful to the audience.
Good thought. And that's a great quote to bring forward is, every time I drank, I did not get in trouble, but every time I got in trouble, I was drinking. And there's a reason for that. And basically, one, why do people use alcohol at all? And, when you really think about it, say, well, enjoy a drink. Well, what is it that you enjoy? Well, if you take 2 molecules of alcohol and you take the water out, you've got ether. And so what somebody's saying when they say, I enjoy a drink, in essence is, I like to be anesthetized. There's something in me that I don't like feeling. And after 3 or 4 drinks, I don't feel it. Therefore, that's what's that old song, feeling no pain, right? So ether has an impact. And, one of the wonderful things that I get to hear from people all the time who start to do this work is how they can't stand to spend time with themselves, that there always has to be a TV on or music on or a radio on or something, a conversation going on, that a quiet mind is troublesome because of course, the pain that's in there. And who wants to look at that? And when they start doing this work, I hear from people all the time, I just love to have my quiet time. I just love it when, there are no distractions and I'm inside and connected with myself. So one of the reasons I would offer the enjoying a drink is I like to be anesthetized. I don't want to feel. So when you begin to forgive, when you begin to apply the tool of forgiveness, you go inside yourself and you remove those things which cause pain. And when that's removed, the space of being connected inside of ourselves is awesomely wonderful, and who would want to disturb it? Then the next thing that happens with alcohol is that alcohol causes blood cells to coagulate. Basically the capillaries that go throughout the whole body and impact and deliver blood to every cell in the body are, for all intents and purposes, about a single blood cell wide. They're very tiny vessels, tubes in essence. And those tiny tubes, which if we're eating, a lot of dead animal flesh for one thing, what happens is that those tubes get clogged up with the hardened fats that come with those animal products. And where the blood supply is particularly urgent, that's where there tends to be a blockage of those tubes that deliver these blood cells. But what particularly happens with alcohol is that when you use alcohol, the blood cells coagulate. They start to stick together. And as they stick together, they can't get into the capillaries, which means every organ in the structure is cut off from blood. Now, the end result of that is that the assault of that weakens every organ. I can remember one fellow that, I read his autopsy report, and basically he died from excessive use of alcohol, and his whole body, the organs, literally, just turned to mush. Liver paste, as it were, just basically fell apart. The cell structure fell apart. Where the behavior aspect comes in is that when, it takes about 10 times as much oxygen and nutrition to feed the brain as any other organ in the body to keep it operational. Just sitting thinking, uses a huge amount of energy, just rolling information through the brain. And so what happens when the blood cells coagulate is that the blood can't get into the capillary to supply the brain. The brain now starves for oxygen nutrition. In the extreme, it's called alcohol poisoning, and people literally, physically die because there's no oxygen in the brain. The brain basically, literally dies. Now, there are some other drugs around that are pretty destructive in different ways to the brain, but they don't cause that type of damage because they don't cause the blood cells to coagulate. They impact the brain in a different way. So when that alcohol causes the brain to start to dysfunction, what happens is that we have inhibitors within us. We have certain goals and certain inhibitors, and you know, if we were 3 years of age and we learned that when you turn around to your baby brother and you smash him in the mouth, that's not very acceptable, then because our parents didn't know how to teach us to forgive, that impetus to turn around and smack somebody in the face is still in us. However, when our parents instructed us or maybe beat us into submission, did exactly what they were telling us not to do to baby brother, that is, smashed us, there was an inhibitor that was put in for that behavior. The behavior still remains. The goal to do the behavior still remains within the structure. Until it's forgiven, anything that will trigger that goal into activity, the tendency will be to turn around and smash somebody. I remember working with an alcoholic in Florida last year. This gentleman had stopped using alcohol about 30 years earlier, and he was very involved in the whole alcohol and recovery scene. And he was very proud of the fact that 30 years sober, and even when he was drinking, that he was not like his father. He did not physically abuse his children. He was from a horrendously physically abusive home. And he was very proud of the fact that he, never hit his kids. And, that to him symbolized great progress in having done his work. But then when I asked him, yes, and how much time did you spend over all those years, and do you still spend trying to inhibit yourself from reaching out and hitting someone? And it was just like his whole balloon, his whole bubble burst of, oh my God, I still struggle with that every day. Well, the reason is because you haven't forgiven the content of brain cells that hold the goal to control by smashing at someone. So here's what happens when the brain starts to starve for oxygen nutrition because the capillaries can't carry the blood cell to the brain. The inhibitors are the first thing to go. So where a person would normally hold their tongue and not say something in a particular situation, with excessive alcohol, the inhibitor's knocked out, bang, it's just there. We have that old saying, in vino veritas, in truth, in wine is truth. In other words, you get enough alcohol. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean truth with a capital T, but it can be the truth of what's being held within the mind. So when the inhibitors are knocked out, whatever's in there starts to come out. And if someone comes from a family system where there's murderous rage from a parent, then murderous rage is the energy that's there, and perhaps this person's been able to control themselves and inhibit that, but enough alcohol and the inhibitor's gone. And the behavior-driving goals all of a sudden take over, and people do the crazy things that they do. So, there's a dual approach. Yes, let the alcohol go, so you enjoy it. Tell you what, there are lots of wonderful, awesome drinks that you can drink that will nurture you and nourish you as opposed to anesthetize you and knock out inhibitors. And then, rather than having the inhibitors knocked out and the behavior taking over, use the forgiveness tool. And if you're not familiar with this forgiveness conversation, you can go to our website, whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. The first 4 links will take you into exactly how to forgive, exactly how to remove what never belonged in a human system. What never belonged in a human system. Hold a newborn child. If the newborn child wouldn't do that behavior, then you don't need to be doing it. It's not human. It is inhuman to be functioning out of hostility and fear. And so we invite you to take the tool of forgiveness, begin to crack that dissociated part of the mind that holds those painful realities that came from the modeling of the generations that went before, and forgive, remove those things, so that even if you did alcohol to excess, the inhibitors being knocked out would not uncover a behavior that is based in some form of hostility or fear. So that would be our invitation, and how we as a group, an individual group of people, would be able to literally remove the unconceivable, untold suffering that has gone on in the world over alcohol. My thesis is that all war is a result of alcohol abuse. All war. Every war that's ever been fought. You go look at the lawmakers, the so-called lawmakers on Capitol Hill that went to war, and I guarantee that they had a fifth of scotch last night. And, you know, it's insane what we do under that influence. And so as we individually and collectively choose to handle the issues within ourselves, our own pain and suffering, you know, there's a wonderful line in the Course in Miracles that says, when you are healed, you are never healed alone. And millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. If just this group of people that's on this show today were to begin today to address every pain, every trauma, every insanity that's happened, done by yourself or done to you in your experience around alcohol, and then we go further and hold the vision that together as a collective community, we're willing to literally reach into our own genetics and create a safe space for all of the energetic suffering that's ever happened to humanity over alcohol, we will make a major impact on this planet in shifting this issue. So that's our invitation to you. And if you have anything to share, our call-in number is 646-200-4169. If you have an issue, a story, something you need support with, you know, maybe particularly around alcohol in your life, either your own use of it or someone that impacted you, we'd love to hear from you and hold the space for the healing of those dynamics. So,
Michael, we have a hand up. Area code
awesome.
718.
Great.
718. You're on the air.
Welcome to the show, 718. Give us a name and where you're calling from. Hello, area code 718. You're on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Who are we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Happy New Year. This is Ramona. I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, Ramona. Welcome. Glad to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that text for Happy New Year the other night. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I came on a little late, and I listened to what you had to say, and it just came at a curious time. I have two questions. Or two things I'd like to say. The first is that I think that this is like divine. I think that it's a good thing that you would talk about drinking, because I was watching a cable TV show, and the person admitted, it was an entertainer, and I mean, it's like their whole family. Like when you get up, you reach for a bottle of champagne, and I think it was they was drinking champagne in the morning. They start the day off with champagne and some kind of meat. Like I can't remember what it was, but the drinking would go on like all day long, and they would, I think it's an issue because for myself and for a lot of people that I come in contact with, it seems that drinking is an okay thing. Drinking is an okay thing because it's legal, but it's also okay. It's more socially acceptable than a whole lot of other things. And so I think people think that's the norm, to get up in the morning and have a drink. That's even if it's champagne, and it's not. But for me personally, like I would drink, but I would binge drink. Like I would do it for a couple of days, and then I would get tired of it, and I would stop, and then some time would go by. But it's still the same pattern, Dr. Ryce. It's just, I think it's still the same issues. I believe that we don't have to do it at all.
So my invitation to you would be, and I'll join you in this commitment if you're willing to make it, and that is that you never touch alcohol again. That's all. Just let it go. And if there's a time when you have this inclination and you want to go for alcohol, the reason will be, if it's like a compulsion type of thing, which many people have, the reason for that compulsion is because something's happened in the world around you that resonates, something painful that I don't know how to deal with, and my way of anesthetizing that pain, my way of avoiding it, not feeling it, not looking at it, is going unconscious, which is what alcohol does, especially binge drinking. It's about going unconscious. And so, it's sad and insane, especially kids going off to college. Well, the tradition is you just, go to the frat party and you drink and you drink and drink into stupidity.
Mhm.
And I'd offer that's a tradition that needs to go on planet Earth. Excuse me, it's not fun. I mean, you look at, people call it, well, that's how we have fun. No, that's how we anesthetize against the pain we have. And when we're anesthetized, we think that's fun because I'm not experiencing any pain. But there's no fun in that. I mean, if you go to a party and you're one who doesn't drink and you watch the stupidity that goes on, the things that pass as a joke, the vicious words that come out of people's mouths, and the behaviors that happen, and as one person said the other day, most murders, alcohol's involved. Excuse me, who was it? Karl Marx who said you can destroy a society by changing the meaning of its words. So a fact that's involved in almost all murders in the country and a significant amount of spousal, child, and parental abuse is alcohol, and somebody links that to the word fun. And so people, there's a thing we do in our Laws of Living course where we talk about a thing called regulatory speech. And regulatory speech is, and we're the only creature that has this faculty, is the impact that words have on a stimulus, either it being attractive or repulsive to us. And there's an area in the brain called Broca's area, which is very close to the speech center. And words can modify the impact of a stimulus or the attractiveness of a behavior. So a person who's brought up in an alcoholic home has seen all kinds of pain and trauma, said, boy, I'm never going to do that. But because there's so many words that make alcohol fun and attractive, and it's just what our family does, they're taken over by that behavior. Another example, and we call this regulatory speech. Another example of regulatory speech, everybody's familiar with a young woman named Karen Carpenter, very successful music and recording artist, millionaire. And here's a woman who literally, physically starved to death.
That's right.
Now, she could have $1 million worth of nutrition and food in her refrigerator because she was a millionaire, but she starved to death. Why? One simple thing happened. In her mind, she made a link. Her regulatory speech link became, and I don't know precisely if this is it, but it would go along these lines with the person who's anorexic, bulimic, is food equals ugly fat. Now, when that verbal link is made, then the attractiveness of food, which is a natural survival instinct, is all of a sudden gone. that means ugly fat. So I don't eat, and this person starves to death. You know, you look at the first time anybody takes a cigarette, and you listen to the body and its message. That the message that it gives is pretty clear, you know, this is not useful. But when we have visual images that are linked to, this is suave, this is cool, when we see movie after movie where the hero, you know, just the link of hero to lighting up the cigarette impacts the brain and makes that behavior attractive. Well, alcohol's the same thing. That's part and part of it. Drugs are the same thing. You look at virtually every drug ad that you will see on television, and you'll notice that they sell a disease, they then sell a pill that's supposed to resolve the disease, and then they read a list about the body parts that are going to fall off, about the collateral damage. They're not side effects, it's collateral damage to this pill. But you'll notice that what they do is they show, you know, this couple all of a sudden looking happy and wonderful and dancing through the field of hay and just having a wonderful time. Visual images linking, and as they're showing all of these wonderful pictures, what are they doing? They're saying, and yes, sure, this is going to fall off and that's going to fail, and by the way, you better be careful of this, and if this starts to happen, make sure you see a doctor in a hurry because this may be a fatal side effect. Duh! What just happened? Manipulation of the brain. That's basically what, you know, the advertising industry, what Madison Avenue has done, is learned how to manipulate us into making things attractive that are really pretty insane. And so I'd invite you, and I certainly join you and invite everybody in our audience to start to look at the visual and verbal links that made alcohol either useful or fun or acceptable, and start to break those and let them go, because the people who sell that stuff at every turn, you know, you see the dapper gentleman with the drink in his hand, and then it's insane. It's insane. It kills people. It destroys families. It creates so much trauma. But, you know, if you listen to the average student at college, it was a fun night. Yeah, well, only three died from the drinking contest, so it was a fun night. It's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
So, Michael, we have another person with their hand up in area code 541. Do you want to take that or wait?
Sure. Why don't you stay with us, Ramona, or do you have another thought for us at this point?
I need help with the sheet, the worksheet.
Tell us what your question is.
Well, I don't know quite where to begin. Like, I read through the chapter 24, and it said that you should start with something that's not so emotionally, I guess, trying or challenging.
Right, a small issue, right.
A small issue. If you could just give me a couple of examples of, you know.
Well, you know, if you take any particular thing that's going on in your environment that seems to resonate, something, you know, irritating, a minor irritation, a minor upset type of thing, then that would be the starting point for the worksheet. When you went to the website and you downloaded the Chapter 24 in the worksheet, did you listen to the next two links?
There was I listened to one of the links, but I'm thinking about
the radio show where we walk somebody through a worksheet?
It was a young lady, right?
Right.
That was walked through.
Yes.
But, yeah, I remember that.
So what I might suggest is that you sit down with the worksheet that you're ready to do, and you play that show. And for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, on our website, whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. And when you click on that, the first link is a new Chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And I'm in the process of editing that chapter so it'll fit with the latest worksheet. And then the second link is the latest worksheet. And then the third and fourth links are two different radio shows where we walk somebody through the whole worksheet process, the forgiveness process from the Aramaic. So what I would invite you to do, if you're not familiar with how all that works, if you go to the third and fourth link, if you right-click on it, it'll say save this, and you click on that and you save it somewhere on your computer, and you've got an MP3 of those radio shows. So what I'd suggest is perhaps picking an issue where you've got some kind of a small irritation or a small upset. You know, I got to the grocery store and I forgot my wallet at home, and I just huffed at myself and, got angry with myself for forgetting my wallet at home. Okay, so then that worksheet would look like myself as the object of attention. So I'd put my name in number 1A, and then the situation, I went to the store, made some purchases, and realized I'd left my wallet at home. What's my feeling? Angry at self. What's my thought? I'm stupid. What's my punishment? Oh, I just want to kick myself. Okay, so that might be what number 1 might look like.
Okay.
And then when you get down to number 3, in that situation, I had a goal for myself. What was my goal? Well, I want to be smart and make sure I take care of things that I need to take care of, like have my wallet at the store. Then I'm going to remind myself to connect to love, because what I'm about to do is open the part of me that holds a dissociated punishment of self, where I denigrate myself. I repeat probably the regulatory speech of one of my power persons who called me stupid, so here I am functioning as stupid. So I'm about to open that part of me for healing. So in step 4, I want to make sure I connect to the active presence of love. I want to go back and remember that I am the newborn. So I do that by imagining and holding the newborn, or anything that takes me into a connected space of love. I know that Jeannie often does one-on-one worksheets with people over the phone, and she had one woman who just couldn't fathom being connected to love, and then finally she just didn't know what it meant, just didn't have any brain cells for it, and finally said, well, my cat, I really love my cat. And so Jeannie just said, well, now, okay, so imagine holding your cat. She's like, and she actually had to get off of the phone and physically go find her cat. She sat back down, had the cat on lap, was petting her cat, and was able to connect to the active presence of love. Well, she'd done 3 or 4 sessions with her, and then she was able to just imagine petting the cat. She didn't have to physically go find her. So whatever connects you to that space of love. And then in number 5, you're going to collapse your reality by canceling the goal. And the reason you cancel the goal, you want to look at, like, for instance, in the scenario that I just laid out, it's I want to be smart, and I want to make sure I get things taken care of. So when I get to number 5, I bring my answer from number 3, the goal, down to number 5, and I'm going to cancel my need for that, which seems just totally, completely foolish. Why would I cancel my need to be smart? That's ridiculous. Because I have a file in my mind on smart, and in it is I'm stupid. I need to crack open that file and clean out the I'm stupid stuff, or whatever, the dynamic is. And so when I cancel the goal, what happens by canceling the goal that I identified in number 3, the goal to be smart and make sure I get things taken care of, is I collapse the projection, and that cracks open then that dissociated mind. I can now bring the active presence of love to that hidden part of my mind that holds this I'm stupid kind of stuff. And then I'm going to invite, and we've only got a few seconds left, so we're going to have to close out the show. This hour's gone fast. I'm going to invite, and in Aramaic there's a term in there, ruka dukudsha. It speaks of a literal elemental force in us that is feminine and undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. So in 5B, I'm inviting that force to go to work and clean out this part of me that holds all these times that I was told I'm stupid, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm going to move down then. Once I've done that, I'm going to breathe, get down to the last step. I'm going to set a new goal toward myself. I'm going to think of myself and speak to myself only in loving, gentle terms. So that would be a quick review of a simple worksheet. And our time is up, a fast hour. We can pick this conversation up tomorrow. Our other caller, I apologize that you didn't get on the show, but please call us first thing, and we'll make sure you get on tomorrow. And we're delighted to be sharing with you. Bring a stranger with you tomorrow and have the best year yet of your eternal life. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.